Hello and welcome to the 22nd episode of Overdose and Chill Live. I'm Andrew Potkewitz from Overdose here with Martyn Boddy from Shopify. Good early evening to you.
Hi, Andrew. How's it going?
It's going well. How's it going with you?
Pretty good. I have my desk facing a window, so during the day my lighting's really, really good. But because it's 5 o'clock in New York in November, it's nighttime now, so I'm kind of a little.
Your lighting is way better than mine for sure. It's super dark here. So
it's atmospheric. Mine just looks.
I've also where my desk normally is in sort of our spare bedroom, and I'm up against the wall. So these two paintings like right behind me. I keep thinking how to turn it around and have like the depth of the room behind me sort of to have some more personality. So now I'm in the kitchen, which is sort of the best scene for us. So. Welcome to Overdose and Chill. Really excited to have you here. Martyn is the head of partnerships at Shopify Plus, who is a leading e-com platform out there in the market, taking the world by storm, and one of our tech partners and one of the platforms that we have extensive experience building on. One of the things that we're trying to focus on here with these series is, in this COVID world where we are now being inundated with daily webinars and all that stuff that we consider that sort of 9 to 5 conference content, which is great. But what's missing is, we feel, the sort of personal relationships outside of that, the 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., let's say, chats that we all have over a drink that are, low pressure situations where you actually end up gleaning the most information. So I appreciate you joining us for today's session of this. Maybe we'll sort of kick it off with, we've known each other for a while now, I think just over 5 years. You were actually one of the first folks I met in the industry when I joined. And
I apologize.
So, when we first met, you were actually our partner manager at Magento here in New York. We were the little media spa boutique shop years before we joined Overdose. But and now you're head of partnerships at Shopify Plus. So, would love to sort of hear about that journey. What drew you to Shopify, sort of your personal journey as well as your professional one, if you want to give us a little bit there.
Yeah, definitely. So, hate to say it, I've been working for a little over 20 years now. And the first, I would say, third of my career was in the financial services industry. So I worked in mortgages and banking and things like that, but in partnerships. So I was based in London, and I managed West Central London and going all the way out to like Staithes and places that people know London well, in the relationship that mortgage brokers had with the bank. So I always sort of started in partnerships and continued to do that up until around 2007. And if anyone was around in 2007, everything went to shit in terms of the economy, focused around the housing industry and the mortgage business. So firstly, it wasn't my fault. Like, I didn't have anything to do with that, but I was working for a mortgage bank, and suddenly the industry dried up more or less overnight. And I haphazardly, I suppose, found myself in a job with HSBC, working in merchant services and card payment technology and such, purely because someone I'd worked with in the past was building a team and wanted me to join the team. So I started in my sort of e-commerce journey then, in around 2008, I think it was. At the time, in e-commerce, it was a mess. Like, if anyone can remember shopping online back in 2008, there wasn't very much of it. And what was there was sometimes okay and was sometimes terrible. And people were still sort of finding their way around it. And I very quickly learned about what payment gateways were. So I worked for the bank, HSBC, Merchant Services. Their e-commerce offering was beyond dreadful. Sorry, HSBC, it's better now. I found a payment gateway called SagePay in London, who I found by chance by doing research online and understanding how merchants actually transacted and how they delivered a different kind of UX and such. And I simply called SagePay and said, in a much more polite way, how the fuck do you do this? Like, how does this all work? Like, tell me how you engage with banks and your merchants and such. We had now a meeting, they explained it to me, and it basically came down to me saying, so can I refer clients to you while they still work with HSBC, and we can help build them a much better user experience? Which, of course, SagePay were like, oh, there's some guy from HSBC wanting to send us business. They're like, yes, of course. But if, in turn, I'm a partnerships guy, so I was like, okay, if I do that, surely you have clients that don't use HSBC, so you can send it this way as well. And after a few months of that, SagePay, they wanted me to join their team, and that was much more of an interesting space to me than just the banking mechanics or the tech mechanics of banking. I was much more interested in. So spent a few years in payment gateway world up until around 2014 when I started talking to Magento. Maybe it was 2013. I was actually almost going to take a job with Magento managing their enterprise sales in the UK. But I was offered another role with Amex at the same time to build partnerships for their payment gateway based in New York. So that seemed a little more appealing to me at the time. But then from that, I ended up working for Magento anyway, based in New York. This is long, I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
So while I was working with Magento, which was around the time that I met you and Gary, Andrew, I was, I think, maybe the only or maybe the second employee based in New York.
Oh, wow.
It was Magento, the eBay years, when they bring out the story of Magento. So they had an office with eBay Enterprise in New York, but it wasn't too connected to Magento. And I was responsible for the partnerships in all of the Eastern US and Canada, also for the UK for a while as well. And things happened, and I left and moved to Shopify.
So, give me one sec. Sorry. So, I remember. I think there was some overlap. Maybe you were with Magento for 8 to 10 months, maybe a year after I joined the industry, and then you went over to Shopify. And I remember vividly at the time, we were pretty adamant that we were exclusively a Magento shop for a lot of reasons. We wanted to grow the brand, make sure that we had some showed our dedication and loyalty that we were serious about the platform. We were only sort of the lowest tier partner at the time. We wanted to work our way up, and we're a bit worried if we diversified our offering, then there might be some concern about driving leads because they might get flipped, as it were, kind of thing. But and you very, very early on said, "Hey guys, there's something going on over here. It's something that you guys should absolutely be a part of. In part because of our technical expertise and all that jazz, but that it was just something exciting, not just the platform itself, but the culture and the growth of the company, all those things." So I'm curious, what is it outside of sort of the transition to a new opportunity? What was it? Because I'm sure you had many options of where you could go from there. Why Shopify? What was it about Shopify that drew you there?
So whenever looking at any type of business and how businesses are ran, what are their goals and KPIs? Like, what are their dreams of a business? I think you often find that most businesses default to saying, "Oh, customer success," which isn't often true. It's usually often make money. The goal of the business is to make money,
Sure.
and that one usually comes first. I moved to Shopify because I was feeling a shift in the industry and a shift in the focus and the influence between merchant, customer, and technology. Okay. So who's driving who to make decisions? We kind of had, in the early days of e-commerce, it was technology. Those businesses like GSI Commerce, ATG, and such, very, very, very expensive for a merchant to run. But the argument at the time was, this is an area of business where if you don't work with us, you're just not going to get it. If you're not online, you don't get it. Rather than could this be cannibalizing your in-store revenue? We don't need to go down that. It's different podcast probably. But the rates were, very high for to work with the GSI Commerce and such, which of course became EB Enterprise, so it's fairly close to all of that. And we're getting to a point where there's much more of a choice of e-commerce technologies that you could use, and then it's like the importance of what technology do you choose and why was in my mind shifting a little more to the consumer and how do consumers actually want to engage with a merchant. Especially when Amazon was becoming like commonplace and omnipresent and such, and like from again going back to that UX perspective, were the businesses building the right kind of technology to offer the right kind of experience all the way through to the end of the supply chain? And I felt at the time that was very, very much Shopify's direction. And what Shopify was trying to do was actually stretch up market because they were already fairly dominant in the SMB space. and I had 10 or 11 interviews with Shopify Plus before joining.
Oh, wow.
And it basically came down to, can I build a partner program for you that is in the best interest of both the consumer and the partner and the merchant, and not something which you expect me just to make an extremely large amount of money very quickly for you, something that we can build right with some integrity and authenticity, which can survive and will continue to grow and will continue to do the right thing for both the merchant and the consumer. And they were like, we wouldn't want you to do anything else, which is a really great thing to hear. And it's hard to do, but I kind of got that. It's
interesting, you see all of these technologies and otherwise trying to enter new markets. And you, more often than not, you see this approach of get some big early wins, buy some deals of some big name merchants, and the thought process is that will carry you. If you can land the Nike, or you can land the Walmart, whatever it is, that's enough to establish the brand and grow that tech in market. And more often than not, I feel that there isn't the patience to understand that to grow out a true partner network, you need to plant the seeds, you need to grow those roots, and it takes time, and that effort doesn't pay dividends in the short term, right? It's sort of the tree of life, the gift that keeps on giving once it grows, but it takes a while. So it's really nice to hear that they supported that, and they weren't sort of looking for sort of the short term gains or sacrificing the long term success of the partnership program.
Yeah, cool. Exactly. And I obviously had to do my due diligence on Shopify as well before I joined. And, one of my interviews was me working with one of the technology teams at Shopify and saying, okay, show me the platform, show me how it works, show me what it can do. And they showed me a couple of sites running and all of the data behind of it and how it was working. And it was insane. Like the volume of business that was going through the platform and just working. I'd experienced so much in the past of, whenever there was a large sale, the sites would go down, checkout wouldn't work, the servers would be overloaded and such. And I would see these volumes at Shopify and I was like, okay, literally to the point where I was like, Shopify, I don't think you even know how good this is. Because Shopify is we build our product, we do the right thing. I'm not really looking around too much, and that was really successful for them. But for me, I was thinking, if I can support a product like this and make it grow through partnerships, all of those conversations I've had in the past with partners where an issue has happened for a merchant and it's not good, and it's negative on the partner, it's negative on the platform, it's a nightmare all around. If I can work with a group of agencies and say, this product is going to be great for your client, that's going to make you look good too. So it's very important in my decision to move here.
Interesting. Yeah, there's always the tech challenges out there in the market, and certainly if there's a platform that can help eliminate those for all parties, it benefits everybody. It's funny when you talk about what drives the market. Is it the business or the tech? And I think back to sort of our origins 25 years ago, building custom web apps. It was always, what do you need? What do you want? If you can dream it, we can build it. We will build a bespoke application to whatever little nuanced thing, even if it's some legacy thing that's been there for 30 years and you still want to do it, we'll do it for you. And more in the SaaS world, it becomes hey, are you able to adjust your business rules to fit this platform? Because this is a platform that works for this many merchants. We have those core things that you need. So it's easier to come over here because it's already sort of built. The features you need are already built in. We can add on to it, kind of thing. So it's interesting how more and more we're telling merchants, you know what? We know you want to do this thing, but can you do it this way? Because this way it's out of the box and we don't need to customize it. And just there's no technical debt you inherit there by custom making customization. Interesting. So you arrived, you got to Shopify, and you went, okay, now we're trying to build out this enterprise partner network globally for this relatively new offering compared to the Shopify core platform. Where'd you go from there? I know now you have an all-star team of folks that are experienced, tenured e-commerce vets from all over the industry, SI side and tech side. What was the plan there, and how did you make that a reality?
Well, the first 3 months were intense, crazy, stressful. I joined on March 7th in
Wow. I know the date you joined.
I remember the day because on June 7th, at IRCE, we launched the Plus agency program with, I think, 27 agency partners, and only 5 of those were existing Shopify partners. So in the first 3 months, it was getting 22 agencies signed, like building out all of the terms of service, the contracts and such, getting everyone like on with Shopify, and then launching it at IRCE with the press release. So that was the kind of kickoff to all of it. And then it was really kind of following an OpEx model, like continuing to prove it out, continuing to build the team as we need to, going into the new geographies like as we needed to. In the beginning, it was myself going over to London to have those conversations until there was enough business volume to hire in London as well. And now we're up to, I think, 6 teams across Plus Partnerships, covering different regions, covering different partner types, covering internal partner development and ops as well. And what's been really so one of like the tenets of Shopify is don't be a dick. It's like don't be a dick, and we say that to each other, and it's just don't treat each other with respect and with courtesy, and solve problems together and make great decisions together and such. And I really wanted to pull a team together of people who had very diverse backgrounds, and diverse in terms of professionally where they come from. So as you said, we have people on the team from agencies, people from technology companies. We also have people from brand side as well. So people who've experienced it on, the other side of the screen, and also culturally as well. So, people who can combine the professional and cultural background to really come together and teach us just what we don't know. I think having a team where you can, rather than think about, okay, what is the vision that you create and how do we pull this team together to get to that vision? It's more of how do you look at all of the team that you've built around you, their different experiences, strengths and such, and taking all that into account, you can really improve that vision, because you don't hire people who can do just what you do.
Yeah.
You hire people who can bring other things in as well. So yeah, the team's great. I miss hanging out with them because I've not seen them in person since January, I think, when we last had our kickoff. But yeah, it's very supportive, and I think through 2020, when we've had some major political, cultural, health issues, the team's all still there. They've all really supported each other, and we're continuing to be successful.
Yeah, and that's 100% agreed with you on your team. I always find it interesting that there are folks out there, and I say folks in certain techs, and none in particular, just generally, where it's sort of everyone that is brought on is sort of the same, as it were, right? Sort of the same approach, the same personality. They look for a type for a certain role. When I look across your team, I mean, you guys couldn't be more different, right? So having that different point of view, and everyone has a very strong personality, and you guys don't see eye to eye, and I think that's one of the reasons why you've been so successful there. I think with the growth that you guys have seen as a platform, as a company, and as a partner network, one of the most important things that I've always felt in the partner network is consistency. We in the past have had some partnerships where every 3 or 4 months it's a different partner manager. It's a revolving door, and it's hard to make that commitment to invest the time to reestablish the relationship. Every 3 or 4 months, you sort of give up on it. So the idea that having those people in place for a long period of time to cultivate those relationships, pays dividends. And I think it's something that's missed a lot in the ecosystem.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's the responsibility of the business. So it's the responsibility of Shopify to continually make us as the employees want to work there and represent their business. And that's I think why people stay. I always kind of look at it, when I speak to the people on my team, it's my responsibility to make you so successful that it's on you to be so successful that other people want to hire you.
Yeah.
It's on me to create an environment for you so that you don't want to leave. And I think Shopify enables us to be able to do that. And going back to what is right for the merchant and what is right for the consumer, in terms of how we measure our partnerships and how we reward partnerships and such, it's led by merchant experience. So we don't lead with commercial. Like, having that sort of reciprocal lead sharing relationship obviously exists, but it is secondary to the merchant experience provided by the partnership. And that's what we measure first. And that's what the partner team that's what their KPIs are based on. We look at the site builds, we look at the quality of the work, and we look to see, are merchants happy? Did they enjoy this experience with the partnership of Shopify Plus and Overdose? And that comes first. I think it's different, but it's nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think, I say this frequently, I probably said it on last week's episode of Overdose and Chill, that technology is only as good as the team that supports it, right? An SI like us, there are a dozen agencies that can execute technically like we do. What it comes down to is the relationship. Once you pass that sniff test that you can do the work, what's that team that supports the project or supports that tech? And if the support team is shit, your tech is shit, your agency is shit. It's when you work in this space and you have these relationships that are 6, 12, 18, 24 months working with a client, day in, day out, you better like the people you work with, because life's too short to not enjoy the work that you do. E-commerce is not easy for anybody, right? It's a difficult business. It's the Wild West. When you think about, retail, brick and mortar retail, where, having been with the Home Depot for 8 years, this end cap is this many hours, this many people, this much merchandise, this much foot traffic, it'll sell out in this much time. E-commerce is, we're still all trying to learn customer behavior and how to do that. So you need a true partner, both professionally and sort of personally in that relationship to sort of learn and discover how to do things right. So very cool. Shifting gears a little bit, curious to hear what you guys have seen. I know you're a public company, so you can't share some numbers, I'm sure, but through the COVID pandemic, what have you seen in terms of waves of merchants and hiatuses, and what's sort of been the stop and go or trend that you've seen over the past 8 months, and is that changing now as we enter Q4 and all that kind of great stuff?
Yeah. So you've probably heard people at Shopify and other people in the industry saying that the pandemic has kind of fast forwarded e-commerce 10 years ahead. And the projections that we were all going by in the past, we've hit 2030 numbers that people were just thinking about just in general. Q2, of course, was when everything was really kicking off, and everyone, myself included, professionally and personally scared of just what was going on in the world. But if you look at, I was just checking out some stats from Google and other social platforms this morning. In terms of their ad spend, they're back up to where they were. Like, they had the dip in Q2. Q3 is on track to what was Q4 last year. YouTube especially is increasing fairly significantly, and that trend follows with us as well within Shopify Plus. We pivoted a lot from a development and product perspective in Q2 to try and react to the market and to try to deliver things to businesses, really just to keep them alive. Because everything crashed so quickly. So we very quickly we spun up Shopify for restaurants, for example. We created buy online, pick up in store. We made gift cards available to all merchants, more or less overnight. So all of these solutions to allow merchants to continue to transact. And on the consumer side, one of my favorite areas of Shopify at the moment, which isn't my area, so I probably shouldn't say it, but something I find really interesting is the Shop app. I don't know if you know.
Yep.
The Shop app. So was basically
you explain what it is high level so people understand.
Yeah. So high level, it's a consumer app. So it's an app on your phone. If you can link it to your email account, if you want to, you don't have to. But if you buy from a Shopify merchant who's using Shopify Payments and Shop Pay, for example, once you place that order with Shopify, it appears in your Shop app. So you see it in the app, your order's here when you ordered it, your app will update when it's been shipped, your app will update when it's been delivered. You're going to be able to manage your returns through the Shop app as well, so you can kind of aggregate all of your stores together. You can also pull in information from other e-commerce non-Shopify site. So you can have your Amazon orders in here as well if you wanted to, if it's connected to your email. And one thing we did very quickly with the Shop app from a consumer perspective was allowing consumers to open the Shop app and find independent merchants that were close to them. So setting a location, and I opened mine. I'm in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. There was like 20 or 30 stores, all within like a 10-minute walk of where I live. Where I could shop with them, they could deliver, I could pick up curbside from them, and it was, it wasn't a flawless launch. It's great now, but we wanted to get that out quickly so that people like ourselves could continue to connect with local businesses, and those businesses could not thrive, but just continue to survive.
Yeah, that's very cool. Now, and you're saying that the environment accelerated the release of and expedited the release of features like that. I'm curious on the subscription side. The recent opening up of the API, the Shopify Payments API, to allow for some third-party subscription folks to leverage directly through the Shopify Payments rather than sort of going outside to Stripe, as it were, with whatever fees were associated with it. Was that part of the initiative, that the uptick in merchants who need subscription, for things that folks just don't want to go to the store for anymore? If I can get it delivered subscription, I can do that. Talk a little bit about that piece of the Shopify Plus platform.
Yeah, I think that was part of it. It was also something that we needed to do. We wanted to keep that merchant and consumer experience seamless. The Shopify checkout is one of the highest rated converting checkouts out there, and we don't really want consumers to have to leave that experience and go off checkout, and suddenly the experience is different. We were also seeing merchants at the time like Heinz over in the UK creating bundles of different cans or tins of soups and ketchup and things, which you could create on subscription and get up and running very quickly. So we wanted to make sure that we could provide the right merchant and consumer experience in the way that the world is changing very quickly. So as you mentioned, we now have subscription apps available within checkout. So continuing to work with recharge and so on, but managing to stay within the same checkout experience.
Cool, very cool. So getting away from the tech for a bit, there have been so many challenges, certainly in the world for merchants, for everyone in the industry. One of the things which I is not as serious as other impactful things in the world that have happened through COVID, but one of the challenges that we face, and I imagine you guys do as well, is this industry, certainly on the partnership side, is relationship driven. Has historically been driven by January through September. There's a conference every month, and we all see each other a dozen times a year there and in between. And that's where a lot of the value in the partnership ecosystem derives from. So, how are you guys navigating? How are you navigating that, and how are you, making up for sort of the lost ground and lost face time that inevitably, goes by the wayside here?
Honestly, it's hard. I think keeping communication channels open is really important, and not just the Google Hangout or the Zoom, or the webinar, which there's webinar fatigue to an extent. There's just so many of them. I think we all have those connections that we work with. I probably I know a lot of people in this industry. There's probably 15 to 20 people that I actually text. Remember SMSs? It's probably iMessage unless it's Google and Apple are fighting. But text, and text just about the personal. A lot of people have moved. I've had some people move down to Miami. Some people move over to the West Coast. So people are kind of dispersing because that, as you said, in-person relationships not there. So I think just having those random texts and making sure people are okay and checking in on them personally is helping. But continuing to create that community of many that still exists. Yeah, I don't think it's disappeared, but it's hard. I did have this idea which we might do. Might sound stupid. But I kind of wanted to send everyone a plant, the same plant.
Okay.
So send 50 people, all the whatever is the same plant that you could keep on your desk.
Yeah.
Then we would all have that common thing, which is like, oh, how's your plant doing? And some would die because people are terrible, me included. Some would really thrive and be great. Some would be like that. Would be like, just that extra bit of connection, which is something living on your desk and not like a mouse pad or a flat for your camera.
So you guys, what about doing do you remember Tamagotchis? Do you remember that? The little,
I was a little old for them, but I do remember them.
So am I, but whatever, I'm familiar with them. That'd be pretty cool, Tamagotchi, branded Tamagotchi. So I guess in that vein, what do you, and I'm an extrovert, that full well, and I am bouncing off the wall sometimes. As much as we all lament about going to Vegas again or going to Chicago and the 3 a.m. flights and the flights home. I miss it. I absolutely miss that level of engagement across the ecosystem, because not only is it great because I love the folks in the ecosystem, because it is just, as you noted, don't be a dick. There are very few dicks in our industry, in our ecosystem, but I learn so much, right? That is, I get more value out of those conversations like this over a drink, over lunch, over dinner with a group of people than I do sitting through a 40-hour session at a conference in a conference room. It's tough, man. It's really tough.
It is tough. Yeah, and also on the merchant side as well, there's some really, really great e-commerce directors out there who you also get to see at these events and such. And I also want to hear from their side, like how are they keeping their ecosystem alive? Of you're speaking to each other, the people who you would meet up with are what's happening on that side as well, because being able to Venn diagram it back together would be a lot of fun.
Well, and that's part of the relationship. Certainly in the SI world, the agency world, where I fully respect that when it comes to the tech side and it's a SaaS platform, to a certain extent, once it's sold, yes, there's client success, there's ongoing check-ins, but it's not a weekly conversation, right? With the SaaS platform, but with us, it is. It's a weekly thing, and when you're not able to have those dinners, those drinks, those in-person engagements, it's a little bit of a different dynamic. It's I think it's the piece I miss the most about what we do and how we can't do 100% of what we normally do. So we have to find different ways to do it. So there are after hours events. We try and hold things like craft beer tastings and the like that sort of help drive that. We're not curing cancer here. This is e-commerce, and it's important to run businesses, but let's not forget the personal relationship that we have outside of sort of the zeros and ones of coding, as it were. So what do you miss the most, and what do you not miss about sort of the world as it used to be in this industry?
I can't say that.
You can say anything you want, man.
What do I miss the most? What I miss the most is basically what you just said. That there would always be someone to go and see at between 4 and 7 p.m. in Manhattan, and you could talk a bit of work, and you could have a beer at the end of the day, and you'd find out what was going on, and you could figure out what was happening in the market and such, and that was incredibly useful and also a lot of fun. So a lot of my friends in America work in this industry, so it's it was nice to be able to do it all at once, and now you kind of can't do it all. So I definitely miss that social aspect. What do I not miss? I needed to stop traveling a bit.
Yeah.
It was getting silly. I was doing between 80 and 100 flights a year, and it was just too much. So I don't miss doing that volume of travel, but I do miss traveling.
Yeah. It's funny, you mentioned, a lot of friends in the industry, and I'm the same. I think over the past 5 years since being in this industry, more and more of those are becoming my core friends, in addition to my normal friends. I'm also marrying someone in the industry in a couple of weeks. So I used to not be able to escape the industry. Wherever I went, it was personal, it was professional. And again, I'm now saying, itching for that in-person connection with the rest of the tech ecosystem. Not that I don't love my future wife, I absolutely do, but there's more out there in terms of engagement within the ecosystem. I guess sort of wrapping up, last question. I guess last couple questions. One, 2021. It's going to be interesting to see what unfolds there. Anything coming out that you can share that we should be excited for from Shopify Plus?
So what's interesting? I think the matching up of like consumer solutions and merchant solutions and how you can leverage that is going to be interesting. So I said, on the consumer side, you've got the Shop app, which is going to continue to grow and continue to be developed. From a merchant solution perspective, we have things like Shop Pay. So, where you get a text, 6-digit code, all of your details staged. It's like a two-step checkout, I would say. We're also releasing Shopify Balance as well. Have you heard of Balance? So Balance,
remind me.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you got an email. It's basically a financial solution for merchants.
Okay.
So it's banking. Like you will get your own branded card that you can use.
Oh, interesting.
Your merchant funds will flow into Balance. You can use it to pay, partners or to pay Shopify, or if you want to, your suppliers and such. So I think, being able to have that one-stop shop for your finances. Obviously, you could move it from Balance into another kind if you needed to, but just having it all there so that you can run your business and really understand your revenue coming in, your outgoings and such, so you can start forecasting better. Balance, of course, can be coupled with Shopify Capital. So if you need some Shopify Capital, so we have all of these financial solutions coming up for merchants, which is going to make their lives so much easier. And at the same time, financial solution on the other side of Shopify is, the deferred payments. So split payments from a consumer perspective. So we're going to have, things that a consumer can do coming into the Shop app, and then things that a merchant can do from a financial perspective coming in through Shopify Balance. And I think with some creative thinking, the possibilities of the combinations of those two are pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So, it's no secret that Shopify acquired Handshake from a B2B perspective, April last year, I think it was. So we are working on a B2B solution. What it's exactly going to look like at the moment, I can't share at this point. But let your imagination sort of run wild a little bit. You've got Balance there. You've got Shopify B2B. So you're essentially going to have B2B merchants on the Shopify platform, which is the same platform as the D2C and B2C merchants of Shopify. So we might suddenly in the future have B2B merchants supplying Shopify merchants all through one platform.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll see the
balance. Let's say the B2B and the D2C both use Shopify Balance.
Wow.
So that's all I can see. And I think what that can do in terms of speeding up the flow of money between different businesses and consumers and merchants. Whether it will happen or not, I don't know, but I think it gives us tremendous possibilities.
Yeah, no, certainly it does. And I think certainly exciting things on the horizon. I think that we used to talk about back in your Magento days, there were all these obstacles for merchants to would have to contend with when moving to Shopify, right? There were all these, it was sort of the multi, right? Multi-language, multi-currency, multi-brand, B2B. And it's really fascinating and exciting to see you guys sort of one by one just knocking them down and going, nope, no longer a blocker. You're really paving a path for the gross preponderance of merchants out there to be able to leverage Shopify to grow their brands. So it's really exciting to be part of that, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? Any holiday tips? I know we're up against it with Black Friday and Thanksgiving next week, but anything that you guys are seeing that you would say quick, easy, low-hanging fruit win that merchants ought to execute short term?
I would say that if Shopify Plus merchants haven't set up their Shopify flows to be able to manage their business and making sure that they are, categorizing their customers and products correctly in terms of how it relates to their marketing, get that done ASAP, because it could save you a lot of time and could really help you, set up your business for any new customers that you acquire during Black Friday. So if you can make sure that you can acquire the customers and then segment them in the right way based on who they are, and you can automate things like that through Shopify Flow. So if that's not done, definitely look into it. And of course, Launchpad as well. So making sure that you can schedule your promotions and things.
Cool. Appreciate the tips. I'd say, I think we may not have one of these next week, because I think this is the last Overdose and Chill before the Thanksgiving holiday, I believe. As I said last week, when it comes to holiday prep, test, just test everything, test the hell out of it, and make sure you have all your vendors' numbers, hotline numbers in your pocket the entire holiday in case something comes up, so you can reach out and don't have to scramble and find the right team member on your team who has the number for that guy, for that technology. So just be prepared for any possibilities. But awesome talking to you as always. I always get some really good knowledge out of it. So always great chatting. Appreciate you joining us for today on Overdose and Chill, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and hope to chat with you soon.
You too, and I hope to see you soon. We can do a social distance thing somewhere in the city. It would be cold, but we can do it.
We absolutely can and absolutely will.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day, evening.
Bye. Take care.